Module 1. How to Overcome Procrastination. Welcome to this course. This course gives you an in-depth understanding of procrastination. The course focuses on how to overcome procrastination. In the first lesson of this course, you will learn how to use self-assessment as a technique to fight procrastination. Students will learn how to assess themselves and dissect their procrastination habit. The objective of the course is to equip students with useful strategies and techniques to beat procrastination. I share pertinent self-assessment tools and exercises to allow the students to quickly become aware of their avoidance habits and to remedy the situation. Each learner is expected to adhere to the following rules. Come prepared for class and concentrate to have the best learning experience possible. Follow instructions given during the lesson and take pride in your work. Do not interrupt the lesson by any means. If you start the lesson, be sure to complete it. Uninterrupted lessons pay the highest dividends. Last but not least, show respect and love for the curriculum and the learning environment. Respecting the curriculum keeps you on track for success. One of the worst enemies of success, whether it's academic, professional, or else, is procrastination. But you can beat that bad habit if you decide to learn and apply the self-assessment technique. Socrates was considered by many to be the wisest man in ancient Greece. His philosophical tenets and teachings are still studied and applied today. Socrates once observed that the unexamined life is not worth living. What did he mean by that? A human life that is lived without checks and balances is deprived of the meaning and purpose of existence. Today's lesson gives you an opportunity to refocus your mind on why your work or studies are important. Be confident and complete your assignments on time. Go from procrastination to success. Listen carefully to the following story. This story puts in perspective the commitment it takes to successfully apply self-assessment to one's life. Read the entire story and move on to the next slide. Procrastination is a problem that affects millions, if not billions, of people around the world. From students, teachers, and professors in schools and colleges, to employees and employers in businesses, and local, state, and federal agencies, no one is spared by the procrastination fever. Problem: what is procrastination? Procrastination is the action of unnecessarily and voluntarily delaying or postponing something. If you are a procrastinator, you've got a big problem. Luckily, to every problem, there's a solution. One way to address procrastination is to engage in self-assessment. Solution: self-assessment is an evaluation of oneself or of one's performance at a task or a job. Self-assessment can be used as a strategy to mitigate the effects of procrastination or to prevent procrastination from happening. As a rule of thumb, self-assessment is employed to get specific results. Results: a result is a consequence or outcome of a deliberate action. If you are diligent in using self-assessment techniques in your personal life or in a professional environment, you will assuredly achieve success. Success is what follows when self-assessment techniques are properly used. In terms of academic performance, procrastination can lead to various undesired results, including bad exam scores, bad grades, course failures, and course withdrawals. For example, say Jem received a homework from his algebra professor a week ago. Jem delays working on his geometry homework until the day right before it's due for no reason, despite intending to work on it earlier. When this happens, Jem is procrastinating. From a professional standpoint, procrastination can cause a number of negative effects, including poor professional performance, worse socioeconomic status, increased professional relationship issues, reduced well-being, low self-esteem, and even demotion. For instance, Alice is a restaurant manager. At 9:30 a.m., Alice's boss, the owner, gives her an assignment. She is to find the telephone number, fax, and email address for the restaurant's food supplier by 2 p.m. today. Alice delays working on her assignment and doesn't start the search until 5 minutes before due time. Alice postponed working on an urgent work for no good reason, despite intending to work on it earlier. In this instance, Alice is a procrastinator. It is always a good idea to reflect on one's behavior and actions. As a rule of thumb, a self-assessment is about reflecting on your strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages, successes and failures. As such, a self-assessment can be applied in many situations. You can make a good self-assessment of your academic performance to evaluate what areas you're good at and what you aren't so good at, or give yourself feedback on how you're doing as a student. The types of self-assessment questions you might ask include, but are not limited to, the following. Do you start working on your homework early? Do you have the best grades when you complete tasks early? Do you follow teachers' and professors' class rules? Do you have set goals that you work on daily? In the business world, a self-assessment is evaluating yourself strictly as an employee or employer, depending on which angle you are looking at the problem from. You evaluate your performance at work in terms of completion of tasks and projects, adhering to policies, time management skills, communication skills, etc. Whenever someone decides to try to accomplish something, success is very much likely to follow. Achieving success, whether it is academically or professionally, is the ultimate result that follows self-assessment. The purpose of conducting a self-assessment is to change a situation and get a positive outcome. In this case, you want to change from being a procrastinator to being an achiever. A result is a consequence or an outcome of a deliberate action. Results are the measuring stick for each and every one of our projects, whether good or bad. Results are critical, for they show how successful we are as human beings. Success can be considered as a result since it's the outcome that follows proper use of self-assessment. Myth number 1. If I had more discipline, I wouldn't be procrastinating. I need to be tougher on myself. This is the wrong way to approach the problem. When we say to ourselves that we need to apply self-discipline to short-circuit procrastination, we forget that no matter how tough a person is on themselves, they will end up putting off an assignment if they have a problem with the nature of the work or how they were instructed to get it done. I'm not ascribing to the theory that people shouldn't have more self-discipline. Quite the opposite. But self-discipline must be built step by step, and it must rest on purpose. Self-discipline can help you in your struggle with procrastination. Without any self-discipline, you can't win the fight for self-determination. Our habits and our immediate environment are sometimes much stronger than self-discipline. In conclusion, self-discipline is the highest form of intelligence. If you lack self-discipline, you'll always be told what to do. Myth number 2. We naively believe that if we'd known what we really want, then we'd go for it at all costs, and this would solve all the problems with procrastination. But in reality, many people know exactly what to go after, but they don't. They procrastinate. Why? Because procrastination is a much deeper problem than just of setting priorities. Setting priorities can actually cause procrastination. Why? Because if we say that something is our main priority, We care about it more and we are scared of messing things up, of making mistakes or failing. For example, if your goal is to succeed as a professional athlete, every failure will be a reminder that you're failing at the most important thing for your professional development or socioeconomic advancement. Myth number 3. I leave every task for the last moment because I work better under stress. Sound familiar? In reality, we don't. Everyone works worse under stress. But it is a really good excuse for our ego. Imagine you'd had all the time in the world for an assigned task. You would hand it in on time and it would suck. That would mean that you weren't as great as you thought. Compared to that, when you do it at the last moment, it can't say anything about your self-worth. Why? Because you had too little time to do it. If only you had more time, then it would be so awesome. Our ego stays intact, and we can feel good about ourselves. Myth number 4. We often hear people say, I procrastinate because I have too much to do and I'm not able to do everything. If I was better at planning, everything would be all right. Often we think that if we were better at planning, everything would be all right. If we were better at organizing our calendars, notes, etc., all problems with procrastination would go away. In fact, often planning and organizing becomes just another type of procrastination. We take pride in doing something, even if that very thing works against achieving our dreams and goals. We can get better at planning our own time, but if we don't study when we're supposed to according to our calendar, all that planning in the world can't help us. Myth number 5. Procrastination and laziness were used as synonyms for a long time. Both words are used interchangeably every day while they shouldn't be. There are definitely lazy people, but to argue that all people who procrastinate are lazy is just not a smart angle from which to look at the problem. Why? All procrastinators procrastinate only in certain areas of their lives, and all of us are very active in others. Someone avoids work by tidying up. Someone else avoids tidying up by working. What leads students to procrastinate in school, for example? They won't go down that rabbit hole today because students have a feeling that they have to do something. Someone told them to do something and they want to defy the instruction they were given. Myth number 6. Many people who consider themselves smart think they procrastinate because of their intelligence. It's satisfying. We have heard at least a dozen times, "You know I'm smart, I think about everything too much, and that's why I procrastinate." Because they're thinking about everything so much, they fear doing things someone more stupid would do without thinking. Truth be told, it's only your ego playing tricks on you, because there's no connection between intelligence and procrastination. It doesn't matter how smart you are. Procrastination is distributed among the whole segment of the population, no matter the level of intelligence or socioeconomic status. Procrastination is very common among students. For example, research shows that approximately 50% of college students say that they procrastinate in a consistent and problematic manner, and approximately 75% consider themselves to be hardcore procrastinators. Studies have shown that between 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts travel through the mind of the average person daily, and for most people, 70% of these thoughts are negative, and more than 90% are just repeats from the day before, according to Wood 2013, Collins 2017. A Greek philosopher by the name of Epictetus stated that it's not events that disturb men, but their view of events. To put it differently, the way we think events are affects us more than the way they are. How is it that our view of events that occur in our lives affects us more than the events themselves? It's all about perception. Perception is an important factor in life. Through perception, we become more aware of and can respond to our environment. As you begin your self-assessment journey and set out to overcome procrastination, the first thing you need to do is to be sure you change your perception, the way you think. Understanding that procrastination is not a fatality. You are not a failure because you are a procrastinator. If you're dealing with procrastination, whether it's a severe case or not, understand that it's not the end of the world. Procrastination is not as bad as you think. It should be perceived as a moment in time, not a fatality. It could potentially become a real danger if you decide to sit around and do nothing about it. So do not walk around feeling sorry for yourself because you procrastinate. Keep in mind that this too shall pass. According to an agency called Accountability Works, there are 4 types of procrastinators or avoidance archetypes: the performer, the self-deprecator, the overbooker, and the novelty seeker. The performer. This type says, I work well under pressure. The performer is the kind of procrastinator that forces themselves to focus by shrinking the time they have to tackle a task. The self-deprecator says, I am so lazy right now. This procrastinator is the opposite of lazy, so when they don't do something, they are extra hard on themselves. We see this a lot with our male clients. They tend to blame inaction on laziness or stubbornness rather than admit that they are tired. What they really need is to be more compassionate with themselves. The overbooker says, I'm so busy. This procrastinator is a pro at filling up their calendar and is often overwhelmed. I'm so busy is probably the perfect escape clause. When busyness comes up as an excuse for not doing something, it's usually an indication of avoidance. The novelty seeker says, I just had the best idea. This procrastinator has a terminal case of shiny object syndrome. They're constantly coming up with new projects to take on, and then get bored with them a week later. They're intrigued by the latest trend and will be quick to implement, but not follow through. They are great at making decisions and taking action. However, they end up inadvertently losing a lot of time and burning out because they don't take consistent action in one direction long enough to see results. After going over these different styles of avoidance, ask yourself the question, which type of procrastinator am I? It's important to put in perspective each avoidance habit in order to understand the challenge they pose and the solution to remedy the problem. Let's start with the performer archetype. If you're a performer, your biggest challenge is getting started with your task or assignment. Your solution? Flip the script and set a date. When you focus on when you're going to begin a task and not when you hope to end it, you'll take a tremendous amount of pressure off of yourself. Now let's look at the self-deprecator. The self-deprecator's biggest challenge is to say stop and have a break. We already know their response when we suggest they take a break from work. I don't have time to rest. Your solution? Regroup and recharge. Try and take a stroll through the park. Give yourself space to breathe and begin to rebuild your energy. The overbooker's biggest challenge is this. They create chaos by biting more than they can chew. What is your solution? Take a moment of introspection. Ask yourself, what am I really avoiding? Is it the task or the result? What if instead of avoiding my assignment, I begin to embrace it manfully? Last but not least, you have the novelty seeker. This procrastinator's biggest challenge is completion of ongoing projects. Finishing one assignment you have started has a greater value exchange than breaking ground for 1,000 gigantic projects that will never see the end of the tunnel. Your solution? Whatever you're working on, make it stick. Make it work first before you can jump to something new. Literally, write down new ideas or projects on a sticky note. But don't pursue them until you finish what you're currently working on. Start an introspection and ask yourself the following questions. Am I one of them? Am I a procrastinator? If so, what type of procrastinator am I? Can I change my behavior? Where do I start? Start an introspection and ask yourself the following questions. Am I one of them? Am I a procrastinator? If so, what type of procrastinator am I? Can I change my behavior? Where do I start? They say the best way to know the what is to learn the how. In other words, Through practice and repetition, you get better at whatever you set out to do. So, without any further ado, let's learn how to conduct a self-assessment. A self-assessment is a process. We identify 6 critical steps to conducting a self-assessment that anyone can use 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week. The beauty about this process is that each step is connected to the other. 1. The first thing you do is become aware of your condition. 2. Then you seek to get understanding of the situation. 3. Next, you assume responsibility of the problem. 4. The critical point of this process is condensed in the last 3 steps when you decide to recondition your mind. 5. To disassociate from procrastination. And last but not least, 6. To take action. This step will kickstart the healing process. It is vital for you as a student to become aware of your avoidance archetype in order to get rid of it. Why? Because you can't change something unless you are aware of its existence. You will need to take a moment and ask yourself a series of reflective questions, including the following. Am I a procrastinator? If so, which type of procrastinator am I? Am I in a position to get rid of that negative habit? The sooner you become aware, the better. Our Students' Examination of Conscience tool, see Useful Tips and Tools section, will walk you through the process. This step of self-assessment is critical because it helps you realize that procrastination is a self-destructive behavior that distracts you from your present tasks. Also, getting to understand your condition as a procrastinator allows you to measure the negative impact this habit could have in your future. When you understand that the end goal of procrastination is to shatter your dreams and aspirations, you put yourself in a position to win. Once you've become aware of your avoidance archetype and have understood that procrastination will prevent you from succeeding at what you do, your next step is to accept responsibility and take ownership of your mistake. The first step in taking responsibility is by acknowledging that you are the main source of your procrastination problem and that you are also part of the solution. Do not get involved in the blame game and refuse to participate in the justification circuit. In other words, don't blame other people for your procrastination. Don't blame external circumstances either. Rather, admit your fault in not being diligent to do what it takes to complete your work. Then shrug it off and get back at it. Once you realize that you are the cause of your own pain, in this case procrastination, you can begin to break free from that negative habit and to see yourself as being part of the solution. Make the conscious, determined effort to break free from procrastination by acknowledging that procrastination is not who you are. It's important to acknowledge it's not easy to cut ties with procrastination. Ask yourself the following questions. Does constantly postponing my work and going from project to project without ever completing them represent who I am? Is putting off my assignments a habit conducive with my personal, academic, and professional growth? If you answer these questions with yes, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you answer the questions with a no, then you need to make the necessary changes to ensure you go from procrastinator to high achiever. Positive phrases and affirmations represent a very efficient way to influence the subconscious mind and turn bad habits into good habits, and put things into perspective. Affirmations can be defined as positive phrases or statements used to challenge negative thoughts that run through the human mind daily. Positive affirmations can help retrain your mind so it can respond positively to learning and academic success. If you are in school, you can use the power of positive affirmations to reinforce the change you want to see in your student life. As a learner, you have duties and expectations, things you ought to do to be successful. Positive affirmations can not only enable you to improve your grades, but also They can help you achieve your overall academic goals. The very last step of the self-assessment process is to act. Conventional wisdom says that actions speak louder than words. One way to take action is to commit to taking a series of deliberate, actionable steps to undo the self-destructive behavior of procrastination. Someone once said that you are the star of your own show, and you decide whether your movie will be a smash hit or a flop. If things in your life aren't going in the direction you want them to go, you can change the script. If you have been a procrastinator, decide to change that habit today. Set goals, choose a date and time, get to work and complete a task daily no matter how small. If you resolve yourself to take a little step every day, you will overcome procrastination. Take a moment to study this self-assessment poem. Read through it. Analyze it from all angles, left, right, center, top, and bottom. In a nutshell, get the substance of it. By the time you are through with this activity, you'll have a better understanding of the purpose of self-assessment. Poem. Assess yourself. Assess yourself. Self-assessment is a must. To find out where you are today, assess yourself. Self-assessment is a must. To find out where you can reach tomorrow. Honestly, critically, please assess yourself. Find out your strengths and weaknesses. Please weaken your weaknesses. Please strengthen your strengths. Be wise enough to stand tall. Prove yourself better than all. You may pause the lesson for a minute or two and answer each question before moving on to the next slide. You may pause the lesson for a minute or two and answer each question before continuing on to the next slide. You may pause the lesson for a minute or two and answer each question before moving on to the next slide. This recap concludes today's lesson. Recap 1. Self-assessment is one of many ways to overcome procrastination. Recap 2. Procrastination is not a fatality, but an event that is subject to pass. Recap 3. The 6 steps of self-assessment set you up for success 24/7. Recap 4. Positive phrases and affirmations help challenge negative thinking. For more information on our course options, feel free to contact us at info@helpacademies.com. Our curriculum includes a wide range of courses organized in different modules, including the following. Module 1, How to Overcome Procrastination. Module 2, How to Improve Your Study Skills. Module 3, How to Select Courses and Electives. Module 4, How to Navigate Campus Life. Module 5, How to Prepare for Professional Life.